So this video is about basic income. It is a set of ideas, and the proposition is that a basic amount of money is allocated for individuals for them to be able to sustain their needs, their basic needs, as the term kind of indicates. So this idea, I don't know when it was actually like when this idea kind of came about. But I've been kind of thinking about this kind of whether this is a good idea or not for quite some time now, and I've kind of looked at it from a bunch of different angles. Personally, I'm a libertarian capitalist. It kind of sometimes it feels like I'm the only libertarian capitalist in Canada. And I mean, if you look at the kind of things I blog about and talk about, then I've always been a big believer in capitalism. I mean, I came to Canada with my dad. We had, I think, $200 in my dad's pocket. I don't even know how much money I had. I think I had very little. And Canada's been good to us. It's not a capitalist society per se. It's more on the socialist kind of spectrum, but there is some notion of business in Canada. Businesses emerge, they sustain, they thrive. But I think I'm always doing comparisons, and I really love um, the innovation within that happens within the framework of the United States as an institution. And I think that's one of the things that's needed in order to be able to propel the collective humanity at large into other realms, to get greater efficiencies, boost productivity across the board, not just in terms of profits. And I think that's the only way to improve the human condition over the longer run, and that is to harness the power of innovation or true innovation and leverage it to not just disrupt the verticals across the board. So it's like horizontal disruption happening where you replace the old with the new. And I kind of use the definition of innovation in terms of what this guy, actually this book is handy. This is a really good book by Scott D. Anthony. It's called The Little Black Book of Innovation. And I really like this definition that Mr. Anthony has been able to summarize in one line. And it goes like, innovation is something different that has an impact. So it's so eloquent, and it captures so much in such a short sentence. Now I've kind of like come up with my own definition of true innovation, and I kind of categorize it as something that helps us with the redefinition of reality. It helps open up the frontier and redefines our sense of reality, which is really the first one. And we've got these different paradigms when it comes to true innovation. And so we definitely need all of this in order to continually push civilization to not just sustain itself, but do more, help create more pies. Because if we don't do that, then some of the things that have been prophesized in terms of what computer scientists and those researching different areas in terms of AI, and I kind of look at this one research paper that I refer to quite often by Professor Nils J. Nilsson, which was written in the summer of 1984. It's very prescient in terms of predicting what the outcome is going to be if technology and automation in general are not leveraged in order to be able to provide more resources to more people. So I think we're kind of living in that, really, unfortunately, that reality where I just kind of see a lot of bad design all over the place. I see a lot of systems that are broken, and it's not so much the usage of technology, it's the actual definition of the problem, which I think leads us to creating constructs which are stupid and dumb. And it's like literally, it seems like when you kind of sit and peer at the designs and how things function in terms of systems, then you kind of just like wonder, where do you begin and where do you end? Because there's like, it appears like so many systems are not just broken, or they are breaking down. And I think economic models, so we're now coming back to the original conversation I started with. I think economic models, I'm not an economist, I don't know much about finance either, but economics is not a science. But to me, it seems like the economic models are broken. What the world needs today is more innovation, and only 1% of all the research, at least only 1% of the research that happens across the United States is turned into innovation, into innovative products or services. There's fundamentally something broken in the system when such a lower percentage is turning into innovation. And so what we need to do is create more of that research into innovation. And so again, I've kind of looked at it from a bunch of different angles, looked at the data set, look at the inflow of talent, or in terms of the amount of talent that's, I don't want to use the word procure, but provisioned maybe. So, when it comes to STEM or across the board, level of PhDs in the United States and some of the other leading economies, doing comparisons, like 5 or 6 leading economies, looking at the top 2, China versus USA, because China is the country that displaced United States as the world's largest economy last year, and that's the first time that's happened in 140 years. So it seems like scientific rankings are kind of going on a similar path, where I thought it was going to be a couple of years out, but I actually want to look at the data in terms of the patents that are provisioned or submitted across the board. I think it's called triadic patents. China's supposed to overtake the United States next year, so by late summer, China could, by virtue of the number of research papers, another number of research papers, number of patents that are submitted, it could overtake the United States. So there is, like, I guess my point is, even with all this activity, we're not getting to the crux of the problem. The problem, the way I see it, that the world again needs more innovation. So what does that mean? Does that mean that we need more BERD? It's an abbreviation called BERD, which is business expenditure on research and development. Nothing's a clear-cut answer in this realm. I don't think increasing the amount of capital that companies invest in R&D is going to necessarily get us more innovation. There are exceptions to that. I think companies like SpaceX, Google or Alphabet, Blue Origin, Planetary Resources, what else? These kind of companies have the proven capability time and time again in order to be able to go in different verticals and either start an altogether new industry or go into an industry and innovate where very little innovation has happened in the past 30 to 40 years. And I lost my train of thought. Talking about disruption, but when I get disrupted, I lose my ream of thought. But anyway, so coming back to what I was talking about. So yeah, there are exceptions to that rule. But I think by and large, most of the innovation that's going to happen, there's two kinds of innovation. I kind of look at it as two different kinds of innovation. One is where that kind of horizontal disruption is happening, where something new, a smaller team of people come in and disrupt a business that's tens of thousands of people, $60 billion company, and out comes this couple of young kids in a garage somewhere, and they've released a product or services which does an equally good job at whatever what was there before. So that I kind of categorize that as horizontal disruption. Whereas, or I mean, it depends on how you look at it. Being able to kind of go in an area and create something from scratch is much difficult. But I think that reality will change because of exponential technologies. With the rise of artificial intelligence, big data, and robotics, and some of the other technologies that are in the making, I wouldn't necessarily talk about synthetic biology or nanotechnology just yet, because I think those kind of things are still at least 15 years away in terms of systems, the maturation of systems for society to be able to take or leverage those kind of things. Kind of like how we leverage computing today, where anyone out there, as long as they have access to a computer and the internet, you just need a couple $100 in order to start a business today. So in order for nanotechnology and synthetic biology and some of the other exponential developments in that category for us to kind of capitalize upon them on a real-time basis, I think it's going to take some time. I want to be proven wrong there, obviously. But what we can do, and what is happening today, is software ate the world, or software is eating the world, and that phenomenon has definitely become true in the past couple of years. I think AI is going to eat the world next. So we're already seeing the kind of dispersion of narrow AI into everything, and this phenomenon is going to grow. So where I'm again going with is that there isn't conceivably anything stopping us from innovating more. There are roadblocks from the perspective of changes within the financial system, changes within the education system, changes within the context of how to get more of that research and get it turned into innovation. So, I mean, and a lot of other problems like that. And I think those are the problems that we need to go and attack in order for us to be able to provision or create a reality whereby not just there is an ideal dispersion of resources, but there is also the safeguard that more innovation can be had and that more industries can be created so that this cycle continues. So I started with the conversation. I started with a conversation on basic income because, and I've been thinking about this on and off for close to a year now. If you asked me last summer or this summer, earlier in July, I wasn't sure if basic income ought to be a reality because I kind of equated that with socialism, and I still stick with my comments when it comes to my thoughts about socialism, that it impedes innovation. I have not seen a socialist structure that is able to innovate on a scale that a capitalist society that has provisioned systems throughout the decades can innovate. So I kind of again use the example of the United States in that respect. Pure capitalist economy, a democracy with a free market economy as a base, and the level of innovation that's happened within the United States in the past 115 years is just unparalleled. It has never happened in the human, not to the best of our knowledge. It's never happened in the history of in the history of the human, in the Homo sapiens. So where I'm getting with this is, so we're talking about socialism. Yeah, like the conversation that comes up is like the examples that are kind of brought about is innovation in the Nordic kind of model. I looked at the data and it's I got to look at that data set a little bit more, but the Nordic economies are not they're not thriving. I don't know if, well, first of all, most like Norway and both Sweden, it had massive exposure uh, to oil as commodity, and with the collapse of oil, their economies are taking a hit. And I don't think their economies can diversify quickly enough in order to be able to kind of shield that, or have safeguards in place to be able to cushion themselves from the impact of the collapse of that particular asset class. I think Norway's got a 40% exposure in terms of exports when it comes to their total GDP. That's how much exports. That's how much of their exports were tied to oil and gas, and that commodity has collapsed forever. Oil is not coming back to $100 a barrel. I think it's 35 something bucks a barrel, and it's only going to go down. It's never going to go back to those prices. So yeah, my point is valid. Socialist structures do not have the means, capability in order to be able to mobilize talent in order to be able to re-architect their systems and really harness the capabilities that the forces within the market provide in order to be able to re-augment their system. So this is one side of the story, right? People kind of use the example of these social democracies and say, look, this is the ideal model, this is what we should emulate. I'm not of that opinion. At the same time, I am proposing that we look into basic income as it's something that deserves serious thought. So I'm not contradicting myself in respect to the fact that, you know, if you do adopt something like a basic income, I don't think that means that you become a socialist country. And this is really where the contradiction was in my mind when it comes to when I mentioned, like, if you asked me earlier this summer that I would have had a different opinion on this. The trend that's happening, which we don't realize, is the impact technology is having on everything. I kind of got a sense of this when I read a book called The Zero Marginal Cost Society by Jeremy Rifkin. So I think it was last year that I read that book. And basically, in a nutshell, you have a fixed cost associated with producing any product or service, which will probably remain there for the next couple of decades, till you have massive replicators that just can make anything, and then there isn't even a fixed cost. But anyway, so the fixed cost is going to remain, but the marginal cost in order to be able to produce anything, including physical goods, will keep going down. It's going to keep going down to a level where it's going to be close to zero. And this is the essence of what Jeremy Rifkin talks about in his book, The Zero Marginal Cost Society. This is something that is happening today. This disruption isn't like, it hasn't completely overtaken the landscape of how all products and services are made, but it is happening. Mark my words, it's going to happen, and it's going to keep happening because of AI, robotics, machine learning, and how advances are made in these three domains. And 15 years from now, when nanotechnology starts picking up, things are going to change really quickly, really fast. And within 15 years of a time, these three verticals or three domains, AI, robotics, and machine learning. Machine learning is really a subset of AI, so it's like really AI and robotics. 15 years from now, I think obviously these technologies, these set of technologies are going to be much better than they are today. I think we're just starting in these domains, and the pace of change is going to increase. So when it merges with something like further enhances when it comes to nanotechnology and some of the other things out there, and things are going to change really quickly, really fast. So the point is that, in a nutshell, technology is going to be able to provide resources where a lot of different pieces within the market had to before, like in an existing day and before this time, had to kind of mobilize and come into effect. You know, you've got the mobilization of individuals, people, teams, corporations, whatnot, and then obviously capital, and you got to put the infrastructure, you got to have governance, taxation, blah blah blah. There's a lot of mobilization in order to be able to have a net output. But with automation in pretty much across the domains, there's going to be massive efficiencies to be found, and it is because of that reason technological socialism will emerge. Took me a couple of months to realize it. I had to kind of go back, do the contrarian thing, bash the things in my mind, as in this point of view and that. Went and read about what Milton Friedman had to say. Smart guy, super smart guy. I think a lot of things Milton Friedman talks about hold valid even today. So I think his concept of the negative income tax and what have you are pretty close to, I think, the basic income. I'm not sure about that one. But anyway, so coming back to technological socialism, technology is basically going to be able to provide resources where a lot of different things had to get mobilized in the past. And because of that phenomena, the notion of a lot of different things is going to change. The things that are going to change, in my opinion, is that because of the efficiency and productivity, we're not going to need, I think right now, the last time I crunched the data here was last year. So I think the global unemployment rate is sitting at 7%, global unemployment on average. So that means people in certain age group, 93% of the people of the earthly population is employed. So 93% of the earthly population is employed in order to be able to provide products and services to the 93% of the people, to the 100% of the people, of the populace. But if you gotta stop and think about that for a second, every single day, billions of people are mobilized in a haphazard, chaotic fashion. It's like order and chaos, so that products and services are created for the 100% of the people within civilization, as in if we have a collective civilization. I mean, can you imagine the churn here? You have billions upon billions of people who put gas in their car, they drive to work, and then they have a cup of coffee or chai or whatever they drink in other parts of the world. And then there's like this massive inefficiency, there's bureaucracy, there's politics. 1% of research is turning into innovation. 99% of the research is still sitting there on the shelves. There's like amazing research coming out of the research labs, but the diffusion of technology is not happening on a scale where we'd like it to happen because of any given reason, because of cultural anthropology, whatever the reason may be. So we have a complex set of problems here, but the root cause is the same, that the systems are broken, the design is broken. And until and unless we fix these designs, I don't think we're going to be able to harness the promise of technology. The real promise of technology is to liberate us from toil and drudgery. And in a evolutionary sense, we are very close to that reality. We have never been closer to this reality than today, because this is supposed to be the promise of artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, and some of the other technologies that are coming out. And in my mind, it makes sense to allocate a portion of the human construct, the human cognitive ability, to be able to take it and redirect it at the redefinition of these designs so that we can have more of innovation. And so it kind of goes back full circle. And the way you do that is by rethinking how things are done. And for that reason, basic income makes sense. So that was like the long kind of answer, or like how I kind of wrapped, or like it's a glimpse of how I guess wrapped the problem in my mind for the past couple of months. But the logic is really simple. You provide a per population set with a basic income. So what you're really doing is providing enough funds to a group of people so that they can maintain a certain standard of living: food, water, shelter, security, clothing, education. And I'm not of the opinion that all these services should be provided in a socialized kind of a format. I still stick to my libertarian kind of capitalist roots, where I am of the firm belief that forces within the market have to be given the opportunity to go into effect in order to be able to provide all of these, what I call the base pillars of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, some of the things I just explained. And this kind of makes perfect sense in my mind, that forces within the market are going to be mobilized in order to provide these basic needs or basic products and services to everyone, not just a certain segment. And you have perfect disruption happening across the verticals and more innovation happening to be able to do just that. And, just kind of that thought made me kind of go out and do a bit more research in terms of how the disruption is happening. Disruption is happening across the board in farming, vertical farming, aeroponics, hydroponics, in food production with companies like Modern Meadow, Moo Free. Modern Meadow makes basically meat by combining proteins, and Moo Free does the same but for dairy products. There are other companies doing phenomenal work, finding amazing efficiencies when it comes to producing vegetables using newer technologies. Same thing is happening in housing. You've got the tiny house movement. You've got different movements within the kind of introduction of 3D printing for housing. So what that's really doing is bringing down the cost of producing, or bringing down the cost of construction down considerably, where it doesn't cost $200,000 to make a house anymore, because you don't have to hire that many people. You just have it all fabricated and you package it, ship it to a site, and you just put it together. It's like Legos. So one of my friends actually is Zach Jones is leading a company in this domain. It's called Project Vosho. And last time I checked, you could get a house done, like a beautiful house for a 2-person family, a couple, for less than $40,000. So, or $35,000, $36,000, I think. And your mortgage rates on a 20 kind of year amortization are super low. It's a couple $100 versus a couple of $1,000. So, I mean, examples abound across the board when it comes to all the things which are required for Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There are forces within the market that are already in movement when it comes to providing all these products and services. And so the imperative is that what is important, right? Let's start with the basic questions. We've gone through a lot of details. But what is it that's important at the end of the day? Well, what do we need more of, right? So is it more profits that are good? Or is it more innovation that's good? Or is it something else? Well, I like profits because you need to accrue profits or accrue more capital so you can continually reinvest it in newer things, new industries. Without that, you cannot sustain civilization or an ever-growing population. I mean, it's a math, right? Resources are this, population is this. So how do you, like, you can't, right? So you find either greater efficiencies or you create more pies, which is another conversation about the opening of the frontier, which I'm not going to get into right now. But basic income makes sense. Basic income actually makes a lot of sense. If we do this right, if we do it in a way where there is the incentive for individuals to upskill, retrain themselves in areas where the quality, good paying jobs are going to be in the future, where those incentives are designed in the right kind of way, where systems are designed in the right kind of way, where there is a matching of labor to the talent or the skill set that are required, and you can use AI for that kind of stuff. Then, using that, leveraging the other forces that are happening in the market, such as the rise of the sharing economy, and some of the other things I mentioned. There is an ideal solution here staring us in the faces, and it just requires for us to redefine the problem and frame it in a way that the ideal solution may emerge. And I think at the end of the day, when all is said and done, everything is kind of converging at some point in the future. But for the next couple of decades, what we have is a solid chance to help improve the human condition. I don't think we should, first of all, be scared of anything, whether it's technological advancement or changes to the economic system or anything else. I mean, if you look at the course of time, then things have gotten better. We have had, I gotta go through this book, The Better Angels of Our Nature, where Steven Pinker makes a case for why violence has declined. So that's just one good, very positive and hopeful, got too many books here. One very positive thing that's happened in the past couple hundred years. The other really positive thing is that the human condition has improved overall. There has been less and less deaths in an act of warfare, statistically speaking. There have been less infant mortality. The average age expectancy has gone up from 33, I think, years was the average up until the 20s or 30s, and now it's, I think, 76 or higher. And if you kind of go back a couple hundred years, then the human condition has improved drastically, because a couple hundred years ago, everyone, including my ancestors, were doing farming. In fact, my grandfather was a landlord, so that was only 2 generations ago. But a couple hundred years ago, everyone was doing farming. 93% or higher of the overall population was engaged in food production. Today is less than 1%, I think. And so, I think we're at a similar point in time where a change is happening in society. We're kind of in the middle. We're like here, and this is the start of the ideal zone, if you want to call it, we need to define this area, what's going on here. We're kind of in this transition phase. We're having debates about a lot of things. Is AI good, bad? What's going to happen? I think those debates are good, I think. But the fear mongering is not good. I kind of mentioned the research paper by Nils J. and he actually predicted this, that the debates are going to happen for 10 years. But hopefully not that long of a time. But yeah, this transition phase is what we need to define. And in one of the key things that should happen in this transition phase is the implementation of basic income. But we should do it in a way that gets us specific outputs. It gets us the accrual of talent that's going to be necessary for the maturation of certain industries. So we can dream like really big, hairy, audacious goals, like opening up the frontier, multiple sub-industries when it comes to that, like space colonization, mining, exploration, elimination of disease, aging, stop it or reverse it, 100% literacy. Whoever chooses to go for that quality education, it's readily available and accessible for them. We're already making progress in almost all of these areas, except I think aging. I don't know much about that one. What else? It's like I've identified 18 areas. Like I said before, there's, I'm sure, many others. But basic income, I think, would be the kind of like nucleus that's going to hold all of these things together, because once we have provisioned the means for an individual to power their basic needs, that they're fed, they're clothed, they are secure, they have a shelf, they have a roof on top of their head, and they have the means to be able to acquire education so they can have the skill set to be productive in a ever-changing environment, then we have done the job of putting in the structure in place for this transitionary period. And this is why we need to have a debate about this. The whole intent of this video is to kind of encourage the debate of basic income and think about how best to implement it in a way so that, again, we get those maturation of industries, we get more innovation, we turn more of that research that's stuck in the labs and wherever else, 99% of it, and turn it into innovation, that we dream those big goals and start achieving them, and so that we kind of move towards a higher existence and we expand our consciousness and go venture out in the space and explore amazing places, including virtual worlds. I think that is the beginning of our destiny, and I sincerely believe we have a solid chance at improving our conditions, including my conditions. I'm living off my savings right now, and I would very much like it if there was something like a basic income where I knew if I'm taking all these, I kind of go through these thoughts as an entrepreneur, where I kind of question what is important, and I don't have anything to fall back to in terms of security. I'm living off my savings, and if my business doesn't take off, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's going to be my soul-crushing kind of journey where all my dreams are going to come crashing, and I'd have to go and do some job, which I don't even know if I'm going to enjoy it because of, I don't know, politics or bureaucracy or whatnot. So I have my own selfish reasons for promoting something like this, but I don't want to be like, I really want it to be done in a way which will enable more of the things I mentioned, more in a nutshell, more innovation and more research and more more industries, because that's the only way to sustain civilization in the future. Okay, at the 40-minute mark, I'm going to end this. This is my case for basic income. Probably have more thoughts related to it, but this is just start.